Aye.
All right.
How's it going? Okay, how are you? Good.
Well, everybody, 6:30. Please we'll go ahead and start the work session.
So Mayor, I think Andy is going to be doing a majority of the talking. Obviously, we've got George and Eric here if there's any questions. But it's kind of just to wrap up that discussion as it relates to our trails, open spaces, and weapons. So.
That's good. I was thinking I'll give just a little quick background. And then we broke in the issue down into some facets and can discuss or what. Basically, if we get a consensus out of tonight, we would return for a second reading of the ordinance.
Yeah, I don't remember how we left it, whether we continued the first reading or whether we just.
They set the park hours on the.
Yeah, we can figure out how we bring it back to them.
All right, that's good. So a little background on the rec board brought two motions they had passed. One was setting the park hours, which is done and complete. The other was a total weapons ban across all open space parks and trails. At council's direction, we came back with maps for you guys. No consensus was reached on the weapons. No, we've had a leadership change in PD since the beginning of these conversations, hence our work session tonight. So I have two handouts for you. One kind of is some of the issues there. And then one is a map if we need it, but no reason to really look at the map to start. So I'll go through some of these options here or some of the issues within the issues. First one is kind of where would we ban open carry? I've presented some staff opinions here mainly. And we know there was, council had some varying opinions too on some of these facets. So regarding a total open carry ban, there's not really consensus among staff. We could segment. It might be challenging from signage or enforcement, but it's certainly possible. That's the first bullet. Second, long guns, it seems like there was consensus for no reason to have long guns across parks, long guns across parks, open space, and trails. And sawed-off long guns are illegal anyway. So, third one, special events is kind of interesting. Certainly, it seemed staff consensus was to ban those, but we know most people going to commit a violent act aren't going to be open carrying anyway, right? So, that's almost just promoting a safety environment. PD also, if they're in a situation, probably prefers to see a gun. So it's just something to maybe discuss a little more, but it certainly makes sense. And a lot of our special events, Summerfest, they have policy prohibitions on weapons already. Summerfest will put up signs. So that's one more facet.
And then Andy, I'm sorry. So if we back up to number one, I know it says that there's not consensus among staff, but I do think it's probably important to point out where there was a bit of a change from a police perspective, which is that they are okay with open carry on the trails, parks, and open space type of situation from a safety. And it goes back to that comment Andy put there, that seeing the weapons type of situation, that they're okay with open carry on the parks, trails, and open space. Not long guns, but that from a security perspective. Sorry, Andy.
No problem. And then the last one is like procedural. Right now, by policy, we set the rules at the parks, the dog parks, the rec center, that stuff. In the charter, council has the power to set those rules. Staff believes we're better suited with all the nuance and that stuff to continue to do that. So our recommendation is you continue to delegate that to leadership, but you certainly have the right to put all any kind of rules you want. We have copies of all those rules if you want to get into them, but you certainly have that right to set them in the ordinance. So that's just that last part there. That's, you know, at the bottom, I talk about the cost. That's going to come either way. I mean, we're going to change add hours and rule signs. It just would be a little bit more if we're segmenting trails and areas to, you know, put that signage out there too. So that's the short little presentation.
So if you guys, you may not even need the map, knowing that police would recommend that we allow open carry in parks, trails, and open space. And so if you're comfortable with that, then we don't even need to get into the detail of the map. If some of you are like, not sure I want it in parks, or I'm not sure I want it on a trail close to where we have a higher density, then that's what kind of the value of the map is, type of situation. And so then again, as Andy talked, police and other staff agreed there's no need for long guns. That special events, when you're having, you know, a big crowd like that, is a little different. So that's why that's broken out as well. So this can either be a really fast meeting, or it can be a meeting that you guys want to dig down more into this open carry and where you want to allow it and not allow it. Is that still accurate, Andy?
Yeah.
I have one question. So currently on the number 4, that setup, so obviously the powers, your groups and stuff decide those things. Currently, is it set up so that no guns and stuff in the rec center?
By policy.
Not in the rules.
Facility, we have facility
Facility.
rules by policy that prohibit weapons in the rec center.
Okay, and is that the same for the dog park? I'm just wanting to know, I guess where I'm asking is not to cause an issue, but where are we at the moment?
No, I don't think that's on our dog park rules. More
But
that's-
what you're asking is that if at some point you say, hey, we want to do this for the dog parks, or we want to not do whatever, that this is then under your jurisdiction to do that.
Probably not with weapons then, if it's set in an ordinance. It's more hours and.
Right, hours, or do you have to clean up after your dog in the dog park?
Okay, so now I'm getting confused what number 4 is.
Yeah, so number 4 is all the smaller rules associated with the
So this is not about
facilities.
guns.
Correct,
Okay.
it's not about guns.
I apologize.
So yeah, so number 4 is all the smaller rules.
Yes.
We don't feel like you guys want to be in those
No, that's fine.
weeds. And
Okay.
so if we could just have the ordinance say that the Parks and Rec director can make those smaller rules. But then these bigger ones, like on the weapons or the
Alcohol,
stuff like,
weapons,
Got it.
that stuff.
I'm totally with you now. I misunderstood the 4, so I apologize.
But like dress code or hours of the facility,
Yeah, no,
that type of stuff.
okay.
I have a question on open carry. Do they have to carry a license in order to open carry, or how does that work out?
Open carry is exactly that, you don't need a license. Only time you have to have a concealed carry permit is if you're concealing.
Oh, if they're concealing it, okay, that makes sense.
Because you can carry a weapon in your vehicle,
Okay.
and you carry it, walk downtown, that's prohibited, like in a facility that says it has to be closed.
Okay,
No
that makes
open
sense.
carry.
Now there are people who are not allowed to carry guns.
That-
Yeah, right. That's.
A whole different.
Just as a little further background on that too, the state did just recently pass a law that says there is no carry at all, whether open or concealed, in, I don't know what they call it, sensitive public facilities, but like, not in city hall, not in the rec center, not in meeting places. Now, state law says you cannot carry unless the municipality specifically decides to allow it. That's not what we're here about today. What we're here about today is in the parks and open space and stuff like that.
Andy, I have a question, and this may be a little redundant. Can you refresh my memory on why this came before us to begin with?
I think,
Was it a request from council, or
Yeah.
did an incident happen?
I think a couple incidents contributed to rec board conversations. and just an extension of safety around park use, setting the hours and the issues police were having, led to conversations about weapons. Would you say that's accurate?
That, and I think there was also at that time statewide discussion on the banning of
Yes.
weapons and stuff was going on at the state time. So that's what prompted the discussion with the rec board, and then that filtered up to you guys.
What was the consensus of the rec?
Well, the rec board recommended a total ban across parks, open space, and trails.
Now, there was a difference in change of leadership, because when we had met with Joey, he was in agreement that that's what it should be. So that's the information that was provided to the rec board. I don't know if they would have made the same decision if Joey's recommendation would have been different. They didn't spend a lot of time talking about police, but I have no way of knowing how much money they would have put on that.
And this is specific to guns. Is there still a weapons ban?
There never
We did the
was.
hours, but weapons ban,
There's no ban.
There never was. There's a ban on deadly weapons within the city,
okay.
which are,
Like shotgun, deadly weapons.
Yeah.
Things like, and dangerous weapons, deadly weapons and dangerous weapons, definitely the definition.
That's
So
right.
blade over,
Yeah, over 3 inches.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So here's my question, I'm not good with a short meeting, that's what we're looking at. This is good, going down the path. I do have something on that point though, and it's just to address the whole weapons thing. I think you answered, we can't have, well, you know, you didn't have weapons, so now there's 6 guys with machetes walking around in the park. That's.
Yeah, those would be dangerous weapons.
So that's it. I just wanted to make.
And we're gonna include those in twos, right? Either they're the deadly weapons or not dangerous weapons or lethal weapons.
I wish I brought my
And
reading
that's
glasses.
it's a great point though, because
Is there anything to do online?
Yeah,
that's
that's what I'm
a great
gonna do
point,
is
because-
look up our deadly weapons.
They're a little dirty, I'm sorry.
It's, you know, we see stuff going on in places right now, and, yeah, it's kind of scary. And hence the reason that I push for a legal gun owner who either has concealed or wants to, like, you know, the scenario where you're walking your dog in the park. With what's going on in today's climate, we do have gangs of 5 and 6 people walking around with machetes in some cases, and if you're in that situation with your children or something, you're able to protect yourself. Hence, they may not be. So just put that out there. We're in a whole different climate. It's scary.
Andy, so currently there's no ordinance, so technically it is open carry right now.
yes,
So if we were to,
in parks,
in parks,
right,
What about
was
trails?
on trails,
same. Yeah, it's facilities where,
Facilities are different.
yeah, the facilities we push through.
You would want Eric to look at the state manual because they're, the chief's right, they're that.
They didn't deal with outdoor stuff at all. State ban is all.
It's all indoors. So-
Yes.
Okay, well, all right, that's-
Eric, Holly's got it for you.
And so,
Oh, excellent.
interesting. So it's, is that taken right out of state, like state statute? Okay, but is it taken like right out of state statute?
Right, okay, but then Holly, if you could scroll around, so that's the definition, and we don't care about concealed, but that's discharge of firearms. There's something about
There's a.
can't have deadly weapons in liquor establishments.
that's fair. Well, firearms, I think is fair.
I thought there was something about carrying things like switchblades and
Switchblades aren't illegal anymore. The only knife that is illegal now is a trench knife, which is kind of silly, or a gravity knife by state statute, and brass knuckles.
It's illegal weapons, blackjack.
maybe
gas
that
knife.
one, yeah.
Ballistic-
That may be
ballistic
what I'm
knife.
thinking of.
Ballistics, the same thing as a trench knife,
Serrated.
or
I
a
would have to
gravity
start doing
knife.
inventory on my knives to know which knife I.
What's ballistic? Because OTFs and switchblades aren't out in front,
Yeah.
Well, it's not written in there first.
Yeah, I would say the answer is we don't currently, if someone wanted to be carrying around a machete in the park, that's fine.
No, that's not fine, that's what scares me, and I don't wanna get into the weeds, but I mean,
Well, it boils down to intent, right? Possession. is-
Well, so
Machete is
weapons with
really
intent to assault, but
Yeah.
if you're just walking around with a switchblade, or you're like the guy that we had,
no, a switchblade and a machete are two different things.
I'm
A
sorry,
switchblade's
machete,
in
if
the
you're
pocket.
walking around with a big, or a sword, or whatever, and you're just walking around with it, our ordinance doesn't currently prohibit that. We had the guy who was throwing knives at a tree in the park, or a hatchet, and he was throwing a hatchet at a tree. And there, the issue was that was dangerous, because you got kids running around the park, but there's nothing that would prohibit him from walking around with his hatchet on his belt.
Wasn't that obstruction of public property?
Yeah, it's a tree.
We talked to him and told him to knock it off, and he did, so.
I mean, we could easily write that in there, right? No knives over 3 inches.
Carrying him around, why are you gonna let people carry around a gun and not a knife over 3 inches?
Same.
You could, yes.
But to his point, I mean,
The thing is right here, this is one of those weeds arguments, okay? We're not talking about the same two groups of people. Talking about, 2 or 3 people carrying machetes in the park is quite different from somebody carrying a sidearm or a concealed arm to take care of themselves walking down the trail with their dog or their family. If you got 3 guys walking around the park with machetes, not playing Dungeons and Dragons, we do have something happening. It's like somebody walking around with an AR-18 on their back. They're having some sort of mental breakdown or they have intent. They're 2 different things, and if we lump everybody together, that's an overreach. So we have to, if we're gonna get into the weeds, I guess, then that's what we have to do. But we can't lump people with a weird intent, which, again, I don't know why you'd be walking around in the park with a machete. But again, carrying a pocket knife and a gun are not,
they're not the same.
yeah, and carrying a machete and a sidearm are not quite the same.
Maybe I'm not a good shot and I need my machete to cut.
Maybe, I mean, again, yeah, maybe, I'm not arguing, but I think it's, semantics is just that.
So when I spoke against the recommendation, it was open spaces. So I carry a sidearm and a machete all the time when I'm fishing on the mountains, but I don't carry my guns, even though I can, to parks or my machete to parks.
I think where we got into the weeds last time is I think we were fairly okay on the ban when it came to parks. But then when we started talking about trails, technically the levee that goes right behind city council chambers with its big glass windows is a trail. And that's when the map happened. What do we choose? Do we pick and choose what trails to ban on or not? Type thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we started getting bogged down in the details.
So my question is there an issue with the way it is right now?
I don't think so, because there's laws already in place that they address it.
I think the only thing that we would like to, I think really definitely get into is definitely long rifles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And special events.
Yes, and special events.
But other than that, what I'm saying is for the majority though,
Let it continue as.
yeah. I mean, I guess we can always revisit again if it becomes an issue, but
Yeah, I got emails and calls on infringing on, an amendment rights, so I mean, that's why I objected, and this is fine with me, because it doesn't change nothing. It stays the same, right?
So if we go with
Other
kind
than the
of,
ask that Fred was asking,
We'll change long guns.
well, the long guns, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. We want that
but
one.
you can still, right now, you can open carry and concealed carry on trails, parks, and open space, and that stays the same.
We would the special events being their own.
Yeah, that's,
Bubble. Okay.
yes.
And since we have new leadership, Chief, can you give us your perspective on it?
Yeah, I think that's good. I really think we should give it a long gun. But there's really no need for them. I mean, the difference between long gun and handgun obviously is the velocity and the distance and, if you're shooting even from a trail and you're fairly close to town with a long gun, it's going to travel a lot further and has a lot more potential to, into a crowded area where a handgun's not going to travel very far. I just don't really see a reason out there with long guns whatsoever. And the other thing with long guns is it steals a lot more fear from people. And I think if we can remove that, I think we should. Where handguns, I think, right, wrong, or indifferent, whether you're a gun owner or not, people are a lot more comfortable with handguns. Not saying that they're just not as dangerous, but a lot more people as far as the, I guess, the intimidation factor and stuff like that. And like I said, for the distance that they can carry and stuff. So I'm all for getting the long guns off these open spaces.
Thank you, Chief.
So if you guys are in agreement, what would come back to you, either a second reading or as new, we'll get all that figured out, is not allowing long guns.
Thank you.
Not allowing open carry at special events, and allowing the Parks and Rec director to set rules for these, like, the facilities and that kind of stuff. Good?
Sounds good.
You need a consensus or?
But no, this is the opportunity to
Well,
tell us.
I'm just gonna, my thumbs down, like I said, back in June, July, I don't think there should be open carry in the parks. But you have consensus on.
That's it.
Shoot, what else can we talk about? Because our whole website is worthless. I think